we are going to get this party started. Let's get the stream up and running, y'all. Give me just a moment to get the word out on both Spoutable and Post, my only two social medias right now. And welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. I am your host, Kalari GXE. I apologize for not being on Tuesday, but I'm going to just be frank about the next couple of weeks. We're moving next month, and I am like super excited. I've been talking about the move for a few weeks now since we closed on a house in May, and then a bunch of stuff got in the way of us being able to do it. And now next month we will be in our new home, and there's a lot to do still. So there may be times next week where we have to either not have the Bonnet Chronicles or just have one day of the Bonnet Chronicles until we are settled into the new place. But I will definitely let people know. And honestly speaking, this Tuesday was just a really low energy, both fatigue, mental health, and depression day. And I just couldn't sit in front of the camera even though I had the show notes already ready. I just incorporated them into a lot of today's topic because I did at first want to talk about how I was seeing a lot of hopelessness and apathy, especially in regards to 45 and what can and cannot be done about him. And it got me keyed up, but I was also just stressed out and tired because, like I said, we're about to move. There's a lot going on in our lives, and it just all hit me at once. So I appreciate those of you who didn't get upset with the fact that Tuesday's Bonnet Chronicles didn't happen. But I need to be upfront that until we get settled into the new house, it will be touch and go on how many of these I can do each week until I get my house where I need it to be. With that being said, welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles. This week has been a crazy week as usual. I don't think there's ever been a week where it's just been calm. But I do have to open on a more somber tone. As you can see, this picture might not mean something to some of yous. Those of you who have followed and know me for a while, those of you who are black, will probably instantly know who these four little girls are. Those of you who have heard me talk about former Congressman Doug Jones might even know that I've brought these four young angels up with regards to my upset at the fact that y'all did him dirty. He was your senator, and instead of continuing to let this man who convicted their killers represent your state, you let the cartoon character known as Tommy Tuberville, which I've got a rant about him later on, take over. But for those of you who may not know these four young ladies, these four angels, as I'm going to call them, 60 years ago today, a little church on 16th Street, a Baptist church in Birmingham, was blown up by the Ku Klux Klan. These little girls were down in the basement getting ready for probably Sunday school, I would think, because I'm going back to my days of being in the church and how early Sunday was. By 7, we were up and getting ready. We were in church by 7:30 because Grandpa would come and pick us up. Getting ready could involve going down to the basement, but Sunday school was in the upper section of the church, and then we went down into the church for actual, I won't call it mass, but the Sunday service. It was a whole all day event for us on Sundays. So to say I understood where these little girls probably were when what happened happens, I'm sure a lot of black people who grew up in the church know exactly how the routine was for our Sunday mornings. And to think that they were down there getting ready. Maybe they were going to sing in choir. Maybe they were going to just listen to the pastor preach. Maybe they were excited to hear the word that day. And they lost their lives to hate. And 60 years later, it feels like we should be in a better place. But then you have this bullshit. And when I think about those four little girls who lost their lives to bigots. And you have people who try to justify it and say, well, there'll be a new generation, Tin. Hate'll die if you stop talking about this stuff. Because that shit happened 60 years ago. So why are you bringing it up now? Because this motherfucker, this 14-year-old, decided that he was going to drown a black child. Another 15-year-old. And to add insult to injury, this little bigot in Massachusetts decided to use George Floyd's name as he was attempting to drown a black child. Y'all keep acting like this hate that we have historical receipts for, with those four angels that were blown up going to church. And now we see in this day and age the top shooter, the Jacksonville shooter, neo-Nazis literally freaking marching on our soil boldly, that the hate is not going away. In fact, they are breeding and raising new generations of these bigots. Welcome to the chat, Beans. So it's infuriating to me when I hear people go, Tin, don't talk about the sins of our past. Don't bring up the Brigham hand. Don't bring up the church shootings. Don't bring up the bombings. Don't bring up the past. We can't fight hate if you talk about it because it hurts our feelings. I'm sick of this. Because every time I think about those four girls, every time I think about Elijah McCain, Breonna Taylor, Tamir Rice, Trayvon Martin, Ayanna Stanley, every time I think about a life that should still be here, but we lost them to hate, I think about fuckers like this that it was just horse playing. They were just being rowdy. Making excuses for these hateful bigots is why we can't get a grip on this mental rot that is bigotry. Because we excuse this behavior. There is no excuse. He literally was trying to drown a black child and using the term George Floyd because it's a joke to them now. And he's hardly the first bigot since that awful video that I was telling Greg, and I meant it. It is etched in my mind, that man's last minutes on earth. Him begging for his mom. His last breaths have traumatized so much of us because we didn't get warning when we were on Twitter. And when I made that video to stop killing us short, that everybody thought, oh, this is provocative. It went viral. It wasn't meant to go viral. It was meant to show the pain that so many of us were feeling at that moment, seeing that man's last moment, seeing the just haughtiness of his murderer. Because he knew he was being taped, but he thought he was going to get away with literal murder. Because that's how lack of value our lives have in our own country. So to have these young fucking bigots utilize George Floyd's name like that, like it's an insult or a slur. How much more salt can you pour in wounds that you've never allowed to heal in the first place? How much more are we supposed to take? Our souls are adaptable. I say that all the time about my people. We've gone through some things and we continue to persevere because that's all we can do. But there's a limit. There's a limit to how much we should be expected to take and ingest. When we have proven that we are smart enough, strong enough, capable enough, if you give us a chance. And instead of constantly denying us our rights as citizens, instead of acting like this shit is normal, that's just horseplay, we have to call it out. Because honestly, it is not about people's feelings anymore. One of the things that I was thinking about really bringing up earlier too, in this topic as well, was something that I seen on YouTube that helped inspire me to realize that we can't just keep giving up to hopelessness and apathy, because for every memory, every historical event that is tragic, like the bombing, every news article like this one where you see that bigotry isn't dying out, You have people who get it. You have people who understand the assignment. So I'm going to see if I can bring this up because I really don't do a lot of multimedia stuff because you don't want to get hit with a copyright strike. But I think this short is short enough and I am being transformative enough for it to play. I just want people to hear this one white lady say what she got to say. Because sometimes it takes hearing it from people that look like you for you to get it, for those who are non melanated. And I think this lady said it pretty.
I asked my daughter, who is white, did you feel guilty after reading the story of Ruby Bridges? She said, no, I felt sad. I said, did you feel sad that you were white? She said, no, I felt sad that Miss Bridges went through that, and I felt sad that the white people in the story didn't find something better to do. I understand the concern, but respectfully, that is a white concern.
Yep.
I have the luxury of not having to think about my skin color here where I live and where I've grown up, because it has always been, if anything, an advantage or a non-issue. But for many children and many families, that's not the case. I asked my daughter.
And that short right there was where I had the light bulb go over my head because I was reading people lamenting about 45 and there was nothing we could do about it. And I was seeing the Jacksonville stuff, getting the memories of what happened with the church bombing, and all that hopelessness starts to weigh down on your soul. And there's somebody who already wrestles with depression and is very open about my mental health journey. It was a hard week, but I had to start really getting the boot camp logic, the grandpa voice in my head that goes, yeah, things can be bad, but you are tougher than that. You are stronger than that. And the only way that the hopelessness and apathy wins is if you let it hold you down. And then I seen this short. And yeah, that young lady spliced herself in because you have to be transformative on YouTube. You can't just replay people's stuff. But she had the same reaction that I had listening to that lady whose daughter, as a child, got it. It's not about making white people feel guilty about being white. That in itself is a white supremacy talking point so that you don't reflect on the negative impact of hate. They want you to be like, they're right. Why are we even talking about this? It makes me feel bad. And I don't want to feel bad for my identity. And it's like, we're not asking you to feel bad as white people for being white. But when you see somebody literally trying to drown a child and utilizing the name of George Floyd, that should be called out. When you see anybody commit an act of hate, it should be called out. And there are people that are trying to twist things in the acts of hate. So you have to use both critical thinking skills. You have to be willing to understand nuances of stuff. And you have to accept when even things look like a hate crime, which plenty of Black people have to accept constantly. Looking at the Tulsa riots, that they still call riots even though it's a massacre. When legally we are told that what we know isn't what we know. That's the reality of a society that has turned a blind eye to hate for so long that calling it out feels like a personal attack to some of you. Instead of calling out hate being just that, some of you think we're attacking your whiteness and you don't stop to critically think and go, wait a minute. That record skip doesn't happen in too many of y'all's brain. That, wait a minute, I might ethnically identify myself as a white person. I grew up in an all-white neighborhood, but I don't harbor hate in my heart for somebody that's ethnically different, sexual identity different than me. So why do I feel the need to defend those who do that? What's the deal with that? I don't get any benefit from that. And that's why I ask people all the time when they say they want to go on the anti-racism path, are you sure about that? Because some of you can't separate your white identity from protecting white supremacy. It feels like it's encoded into your system now. It has been so societally condoned that any attack on actual bigotry feels like an attack on you. And until you start to separate yourself from that feeling, you cannot do this path. And I am saying that wholehearted, honestly, because I want people to understand that that is a big part of anti racism. It's realizing that people are going to call out a lot of people that look like you, but they are not calling out your skin tone. It ain't about your white skin, it is about the large number of people who share that feature doing god awful things to other people because they think their lack of pigment makes them better. And they have structured our society to just accept that for so long that even calling it out feels like an attack on all of you. And it's funny for somebody who doesn't want to be monolith. You sure do go into weird defense over stuff that's indefensible. And I know as somebody who doesn't want to be monolith, who understands that I love being black and I love being black my way. And I know that in regards to how my people do things, I don't even get considered black in certain regards because of my nerdiness, because of my geekiness, because of the things I'm into. I've had to hear all kinds of jokes. The Oreo joke was really funny back in the day, I guess. There was a lot of bullshit that I put up with until I realized that none of it matters. It's not going to stop how I feel as a person. It's not going to stop me from loving my people even when there are times I don't like them. It's not going to stop me from being black. And welcome to the chat, respect. But I do feel that white people are in a weird place where there are enough of you starting to see that ain't about the skin tone anymore. It is about the arrogance and the attitudes being hyped on your demographic. It is about the bigotry that they keep pushing as something that you all just live and breathe. It is about the insidiousness of hate that has hurt all of our communities, that we could tackle if we would just be willing to look it in the face and realize it doesn't guide us. It's not the dopamine hit we think it is. But unfortunately, we are up against a faction of just loyal right-wing weirdos who think it's their God-given right to usher us into some weird apocalypse. And I know I bring up Florida almost every other Bonnet Chronicles now, but you can't go a day without something going on in Deaf Santa's land. And when I seen this article, my brain just wigged out because he literally has a pastor now telling the people who are being screwed over by his Disney shit that this is God's will and you need to just to be obedient to it. And if you don't know what this is about, Ron DeSantis decided that he was going to take it to Disney over his ridiculous Don't Say Gay bill a few months back. Governor of Florida decided to declare all-out war on their citizens based on their gender identity and sexual orientation, which in itself should be federally against the law, but he's the governor. So he drafts this awful, bigoted bill, gets it passed because the Florida Senate and congressional thing is just fucking abysmal as well. And of course, Disney, being a large multinational company it is, was like, we really don't want to deal with that. It's not good for our image to be okay with bigotry. And he goes, all right, well, I'm gonna attack you then. You're bad for children. Disney. He thinks Disney is bad for children. Disney brings billions of dollars into the state of Florida, to the point where I don't know where DeSantis's mind was, but the feud that he has with them is costing the states millions each day. And one of the sacrifices to that, which the Disney firefighters learned the hard way, was all the perks, the free park passes, the other benefits are now gone, because that was millions of dollars that Disney realized we didn't got to pay that out anymore. Your boy Ron said he's going to handle it. Good luck with that. They also just lost $3.2 billion in road work. But his excuse for that is, well, people aren't really traveling those roads right now anyway, so it's not a thing. And I'm gonna need that money for my fight against Disney, and we'll get it all back when we win. And it's a lot of delusionalness for me. But what made me pause, what made me hit the pause button in my brain, was this pastor literally telling people who are heated, because the hate wasn't enough for them to slow the governor's roll with his Don't Say Gay bill. They were all on board with his slavery was beneficial to black people stuff too. But once that hate started making their benefits dry up, once that check had to come in, and the cost was all the little perks that they thought they were going to have, that bigotry, costly, ain't it, motherfuckers? It's costly to be a bigot in America. And this is what we need to do to these fuckers. Because shame, it might work on some, but not all. But when they lose the stuff that they love, like their funding, their perks, their pockets feel a little bit more tighter, when that funding starts to dry up, that is when you start to see them have their real come to Jesus moment, instead of having this pastor tell them that it's their come to Jesus moment to just accept the ass reaming with no lube, to be quite vulgar, and I'm sorry, y'all. But there's no better way to put it. You literally are taking it with no lube at this point from Ron DeSantis. And I don't understand why. Was the hate really worth it? Was the hate really, and exactly means shame doesn't work on men like Ron DeSantis, because the last Bonnet Chronicles, I showed you how that man, in a moment where he should have showed leadership and empathy, showed nothing but craven, cowardness, and deflection. He should not be leading Florida. He's destroying Florida. He's bad for business. But on a national level, he would be a fucking disaster. This fight with Disney should show you exactly how he would handle things. And what troubles me about that pastor saying that they need to do this because it's God's will is there has been a coordinated right-wing flood along with the neo-Nazi things. Like literal neo-Nazis marching on our fucking soil. Like it wouldn't be bad enough having a grandpa that literally fought in WW2, but to have that fear as a black woman, or Jewish American, or Muslim American, anybody brown in this country right now, because we have governors that don't seem to care, that neo-Nazis feel comfortable marching. Like, there should be no news articles where this is reported like it's normal, where this isn't reported like, yeah, this should not be happening on U.S. soil. In the place where Nazis originated from, it's illegal. In Germany, you cannot do that shit. So the fact that they feel comfortable doing that here says a lot about America right now. It's not good. And Ron, instead of being the leader that he claims to be, with his old go-go boots wearing shit, I need to find that picture so I can make fun of him on the campaign trail. Instead of saying, not in my state, you will not do that here. I will make sure that you are arrested, escorted, especially if you don't live here. You will not gather for hate on my state soil. Nope. See no evil here, no evil if it's white supremacist evil for Ron DeSantis. That's why I said we cannot tackle this issue by looking away. We cannot tackle this issue by putting the people whose demographic caused the most of it feelings ahead of the facts. In order to stop bigotry, because it's not just racism, it's sexism, it's homophobia, it's all forms of POC, but especially anti-blackness, that we have to start verbally confronting and teaching that it's not right or okay just because it was acceptable years ago. There are plenty of things that were acceptable years ago that we don't have to accept anymore. And there is a coordinated effort from the right to use religion as their reason to keep bigotry prevalent, to keep sexism prevalent, and to keep us divided and away from our potential. We should be seeing a fucking renaissance, y'all. We are in a digital age where knowledge is at our fingertips, where wonderment is just a click away. And instead of having a real renaissance and utopia and the age of enlightenment, we have people who are anti-vax still. We have people who are denying actual climate issues. We have so many people acting like petulant children in this day and age, clinging on to hate, clinging on to these weirdo need to be bigots for no reason, but it makes them feel temporarily good. And they have to keep upping the ante because that little dopamine hit they get from being sexist to a woman, from being hateful to somebody whose color is different than them. It doesn't last. But you know what would be better for your soul? Especially those of you who are trying to use faith, because it's like I said the last Bonnet Chronicles, if you're really right with your spirituality, if you're right with God, as we like to say, you're not making enemies out of people. You're not seeing their lifestyle and thinking, that's too different from me, I've got to hate you. You're understanding that this earth is big and beautiful and full of different life forms, and they all deserve our respect and protection. Because you're spiritually right with yourself, you're not being that person that needs to hate and cause trouble and strife. But you know you're not. And what's troubling is there are just a group, sects of different little cults rising up too. This news story tripped me out because I didn't know what to make of it. Let me get this up, because when I read it, it's like, why? And what is going on in the South right now? There's a crop of Christian cults that have been being ignored, and not just those weird Arrow Society people that the Duggars and other people came from. I could do a whole Bonnet Chronicles on those crazy mofos. There was a recent Korean group, because I think people need to realize that Christianity is it's practiced by all kinds of denominations. There is no culture that has been touched by this religion, but there are a lot of people who have been exploiting Christianity. So when I seen this article, I was just like, what is going on in Georgia? I used to live in Jonesboro for a bit, and this Gwinnett County is not that far from where I lived. So when I say it hit a bit close to home for me, especially given that GA has had a lot of bad stories going on with the Asian community as it is, from that awful spa shooting to now this, where there's a literal Christian cult and they call themselves soldiers of Christ, which is fucking weird. Because if you studied the word of Christ, you would not be having somebody's dead body in your trunk. There's a lot going on with faith right now, and I am very concerned. The amount of groups that take the word, twist the word, and use it to destroy lives. And the right are gung-ho, without trying to sound like I'm making fun of Japanese people. But they are really eager to twist religion into their harmful rhetoric. And while this group of Asian people would never be accepted by them, I see where the seeds of this twisted religious narrative is seeping into all different cultures. And the end results are always the same. Innocent lives are lost. people who probably would have known better in the system now. All of those, there's like 5 people going to jail for this. One of them's a teenager. And it's because we are allowing this weird, twisted version of faith to be the narrative for people. And when I think about how the right wing are using religion to poison politics, it pisses me off. Because if you look at the moral majority, as you call them, you see they do the most immoral things. Right now, Speaker McCarthy, the most in that House Speaker we've had in a long time, is in a literal war with his House. And he's being pushed around by a man who has credible sex trafficking allegations and one of the howler monkeys in Mayuri Muppet Green, pushing him around because he knew he didn't have enough people backing him. And what are they trying to push him to do? An impeachment on our sitting president, Joe Biden, and they're going to waste our time. There is literally nothing they can get on our current sitting president, and they know it. This is all grandstanding, all a waste of time, and it should show anybody in these idiots' districts, especially, that you wasted a vote on these people. They do not have your best interests at heart, and they will tell you that it's our God-given right to be like this. If we don't, they're going to take your power away. But what power do you have outside bigotry? What are they offering you at this point for the Republican Party? Outside being openly able to hate on people, there is absolutely nothing to me personally. And I know that I'm definitely not one of you guys. But I cannot, for the life of me, see the benefits of being a Republican right now. They tell you to fear your neighbors. They tell you that if it's different, it's the enemy. But how are we supposed to grow and prosper if you are making enemies of everybody? All it does is breed these constant events, these constant little seeds of hate. And I don't understand why people still glomp on to stuff like that. I talked about those girls earlier. Let me get their picture back up because it goes into some of the problems that Birmingham has, Alabama in itself, and so many other cities in the South have. And what drives me nuts about it is that we are told that if we just don't talk about it, if we just allow the generations that cause the most pain to die out, that stuff like this won't happen again, and we know it's not true. You took the man that literally prosecuted the Ku Klux Klan members that caused these 4 girls' death, Doug Jones, and sent him packing for a literal cartoon character in Tommy Tuberville, who's holding up our military appointments for no reason but he thinks that it will somehow fall badly on this administration. This is a man who knows it's his job. He was appointed to help further protect our borders. We literally have geopolitical issues that may need our military to organize and step up, and we are dealing with leaders that aren't doing their job in our Congress, not appointing people to represent our armed forces on purpose, because the sabotage to them will make people think that our president is ineffective. And I think people need to understand that that is the reason why we have the check and balance system, and that we need to make sure that Tommy Tuberville no longer has the ability to waste our time. This is an embarrassment on our Senate right now. And that is the way we should be looking at this. Not our president. Our president is doing his job. And our media continues with their little dings and hit pieces, but it's not going to work for those of us who are set next year. So what we need to do is focus all of our collective energy on fuckers like Tommy Tuberville. If not for these 4 angels whose only crime was being black during a time where hate crimes were almost normalized. The fact of the matter is, the CNN article that I read commemorizing the 60-year anniversary made it seem like it was natural back then for these bombings to go on. And that's sick. I can't even imagine. I already don't feel safe as it is. I can't imagine how it felt 60 years ago with people literally reporting these bombings like, well, the Klan is just being the Klan. What? Wait, what? And then read an article in this day and age. This article was written in 2023 where they justify that this was how it was back then. I don't want that anymore because people are still saying this shit in a time where we know names like George Floyd, names like Eric Gardner, who also couldn't breathe. We cannot keep acting like this shit is normal. It is abnormal. Hate is an abnormal mental condition. It is a society driven condition that if we don't confront it, we are going to continue to have historical receipts of unfortunate lives lost. We just had 3 in Jacksonville. Their only crimes was living in a black neighborhood, going shopping at a Dollar General. And some crazed white boy that they want to talk mental health issues now about. Swastikas all over the place because it's never just anti-blackness. Manifestos, but they can put anybody whose name might sound Muslim on a watch list. These people leave digital lines to their twisted ideology, but we never do anything about them until it's too late. And then we want to have conversations about mental health, which is insulting on so many levels. But we never want to confront the beast that is the bigotry that they're wrapped up in, the religious fervor that they twist it with. When their faith is one that calls for love, compassion, understanding, and brotherhood. So I don't understand why that message gets muddled with the, nope, I got to be a bigot. Because everything I don't understand is sinful to me, so I'd rather just hate. There's a problem with that disconnect that too many people want us to look away from. And when we look away from it, people die. When we look away from it, these people build. They get amped up on their little forum boards. Or even worse, there was a young man that shot up that mall in Texas that didn't even have anybody. I think he was on a Russian forum because he knew nobody here would pay him any mind. And what was worse was he was a person of color that was a white supremacist, because there were plenty of those. There's quite a few of them going to jail for 17 years. Looking at you, Proud Boy guy. Your allegiance to white supremacy didn't do you well, and now you got to spend 17 years in prison. And I wish I felt sorry for you, but karma's making me laugh inward and outward about that. The cost of white supremacy is high. If it doesn't cost you your life immediately, because a lot of you little foot soldiers for fuckery will go and commit a mass shooting and then end your own life or die in jail. You cost the lives of innocent souls whose only crime in your eyes is existing a different ethnicity than you. We're all human beings. Yet you're literally taught and indoctrinated to believe that our skin tone makes us less than. And until that stops being a thing, we're going to keep bringing these receipts. We're going to keep showing you the faces, the innocent faces lost to your irrational bigotry. These little girls did nothing wrong. They were innocent lives, and they are ones of many lost to the irrationalities of hate. And until we start really looking this in the eye and telling you that it is not okay to be this way. You don't want to like me, that's fine. I tell people all the time, I am okay being the villain of your story because it means you might leave me the fuck alone. That is just my sociopathic brain. If you don't want to like 10, don't like 10, I'm good. But if you're not going to like me over something as superficial as she's got black skin, I've heard bad things about black people. I've never raised around black people. I don't know black people. I've only gotten black people from Fox News. You're an idiot. And I'm not going to mince words with you anymore, because there are way too many of you who formulate anti-blackness and you've never been around a black person in your entire life. You form all of these opinions without even trying to learn about other people, to ingratiate yourself. And it's infuriating because you still control the narrative and you call us the savages. I just don't understand the logic of it, because I know, and most of us know, it's not logical. Welcome to the chat, Vernaculus. I feel like my real problem with not addressing hate, especially in 2023, is I've heard it all before. How talking about bigotry makes me the bigot. How if we just ignore a problem, which as somebody who problem solves, I can't even tell you how chafes me hearing people go, well, if you just ignore it, it'll go away. Racism has been baked in our country since its inception. And the only way we are going to stop this social conditioning is to call it out. And if you think that there's a new generation that's just going to be anti-bigot because we have a little bit more than our parents and their parents had. It took this long for interethnic couples to not be illegal, which was the Loving verdict. It took enough time for schools to be integrated, and it's still not a perfect system. Brown versus the Board of Education. We just 20 years ago allowed for same-sex marriage. And they're still trying to fight to repeal that. So you can miss me on taking any more time to this. Some of us don't want to have it where this hate outlives us. We want to be defiantly decent because we realize that we're raising our kids in this mess. And I'm tired of feeling like I've got to teach my kid how to survive in his world instead of live. And if that ain't you, you're lucky. But there are millions of us out there feeling this right now, that we have to teach our sons and daughters how to survive, how to look less threatening, how to not be considered aggressive. And it doesn't work. I watched this news story the other day of this maniac that literally stole a boat, hit a couple of cops with a car, but he's a white man. So, of course, they did everything they could to take this fucker in alive, and they did it. This guy was a literal threat to their lives, hit them with a car, and I was immediately thinking of Tamika again. Pregnant with her baby daughter. Accused, not caught, shoplifting. She tried to drive away, and the officer, because his leg got hit, couldn't let her go because he knew who she was, could have picked her up in another thing, shot into her car and killed her, because lethal force is often used against us and justified against us. But you can take certain men in with no problem. We have to confront this, y'all. I know some people hear me say that and be like, well, you make it a black and white issue, Ted. Why? Because as a black person, I see way too many people that look like me that end up dead simply for existing. Dead in their bedrooms, like Breonna Taylor, who is asleep. She was a paramedic. Her whole life was revolving around helping others, and they paid her back by storming her house in a no-knock raid and taking her life. The same kind of no-knock raid here in Michigan that took Ayanna Stanley Jones' life. She was 7 years old. Laying on the couch, sleep with her grandmother. A baby whose whole life was ahead of her. But the police didn't think that neighborhood doing their due diligence mattered. The cop lied, and he's not in jail. He's not working as a cop, and that's the only saving grace. But he got away with murder. And it's troubling to me that even being able to talk about this stuff, I'm met by a wall of, well, if you talk about it, it hurts my feelings, Tim. And hurting my feelings is more important to me than tackling this very real, very deadly topic that's affecting your community and mine. Because I need people to understand that hate doesn't just consume those of us who innocently die as the victims of it. It consumes your communities too. It takes y'all's lives too. It's hard for people to see it sometimes because you don't want to think about the way hate ages you, the way it robs you of your sons and daughters because they'd rather march around with fucking swastikas instead of making this world better. Because hate is a low-hanging fruit. You don't have to think twice about it. You just think, I don't like that person because they're different than me, and that's all. And you run with it. But eventually you have to keep going lower. And that bar will sink you all the way to the depths of the hell that you claim to not be about. And I just want to reach people who I know you see enough is enough. And I know that you're also up against a community that goes, oh, you don't want to seem too woke. If you do, we'll have to ostracize you, and you have to realize that maybe you need to be ostracized from a community that wants to stay asleep because it's not helping you. That society condone bigotry will suffocate you if you let it. And it's like I told anybody who really wants to take the anti-bigot path. It's not going to be easy. For those that you think will give you open arms and acceptance, there are going to be a lot more of us that don't trust you initially. Because there have been a lot of yous that say in one breath, oh no, I'm an anti-racist, I'm an anti-bigot, I'm on your side, I'm an ally. And then the moment something is said that you don't like about us, or somebody says something that personally offends you, you jump over to the other side because you know that door to hate is always open for you. And you can act like you ain't never said nothing in your entire life that was pro-black or pro-non-black POC or anything that seemed remotely woke. And that is why it's a case-by-case basis for a lot of us, with those of you who claim allyship now. Because the path to you is a rough one, and some of you are not ready for that path, and some of you hate hearing that you're not ready for that path. But because of how you react to that, we will know. There's a thing I say a lot during the week, especially. I can't be on TikTok. And I know a lot of people have recommended, because I love doing the shorts on the site that used to be known as Twitter. And I'm looking forward to Spoutable getting that capability too, because sometimes you do want to do a quick Bonnet short. And I haven't figured out the YouTube short thing yet, and I'm old, I just don't have the patience for it. But I know a lot of people said TikTok would be a good format for my racism shorts and social commentary shorts. I don't want to deal with TikTok. I'm sorry. I feel like I would get nothing else done. Just stitching and countering the amount of ignorant bullshit that's on that app. I'm trying to write another novel. I've got scripts to write for a webcomic. I've got a move. I would not get anything done. I've held off on almost all of my gaming, except for Sundays, D&D. I've put everything to the side to focus on the creative aspects of my life. I would never get any of that done on TikTok because there are so many main character wannabes. Like that lady with the Brock's braids who happened to date a black man and now thinks that black women are low-hanging fruit for her to attack. Her little diss track about hanging people from trees by their knees and giving them the same drug that they used to kill Elijah McCain. Yeah, I know about that bitch. Well, how about the white woman that decided that she's going to expose the young lady that was literally hit by a brick outside of a club for rejecting a young man, and now Her and a bunch of dusty ass hoteps want to try to act like that young lady lied because she's raising money for her medical bills from a fucking assault. I would get nothing done if I was on Twitter. I mean, yeah, basically TikTok. Because there are way too many of you that platform these bigots. There was another young man all over TikTok talking about we don't talk enough about racially motivated crimes black people contribute because he wanted to be that main character. Tucker Carlson Light, as they're calling him, or No Frills Tucker Carlson, as I like to call him, goes on to utilize articles that you don't even have to scroll down. He literally highlights the part that contradicts himself. But he wants to show how black people are more savage than everybody else because to him, that dog whistle is more important than the truth. And that's why I can't fucking be on TikTok right now, y'all. I appreciate those who think it'll be great, Tim. And I know I would do well on it because I don't mind clapping people back. You watched me do it for years on Twitter before I left that site. But I would get nothing done because there are a lot of wannabe main characters. A lot of people that spread a lot of harmful racist misinformation. And I don't have the energy for that anymore. I do these Bonnet Chronicles because I love it. Because it is a setting where I feel comfortable talking about these issues. And it's cathartic to be able to openly, with a chat that I appreciate you guys. I don't always know if the things I say are going to be okay. And I'm okay being checked if I step out of bounds because that's how you learn. But I don't think I could take being on a site that platforms hate like that. That's why I'm not on Twitter anymore. It erodes your soul and it brooms the apathy and hopelessness when you see how acceptable it is on social media for people to spread lies, misinformation. That young lady that was calling the assault victim a liar, she had no verifiable proof. She was just able to go on TikTok and literally spread slander. And I hope that she gets sued for it. Because that is going to be the only way we stop these people from being able to just go online and blatantly lie about somebody. You want to be mad that somebody's using GoFundMe to make money after a tragic event? Have at it. People get salty all the time for shit that they probably shouldn't even pay attention to. You're entitled to your opinion, but the moment you bring your opinion in front of a camera and spread an untruth about an assault victim because you think that you're going to get a high five and a hands up from men who hate women anyway, because I need to remind you, those hoteps hate women. I don't understand it. Maybe they do have mommy issues. I seen somebody stitch that. And I had to agree with the brother man. I really do think them men really hate us women. I don't know. Vagina envy? I don't know. But every run-in that I've had over the years with them have always been hostile. So I just don't fuck with those types. Because I don't need militant brothers. You're not Malcolm X. You don't have the suave. You don't have the insight to our communities. And you don't have the leadership skills. But you can't tell those brothers that. And they are filled with just weird misogyny and bigotry that I don't fuck with. But they will find a little white girl that will parrot their shit and gas her up. And it's the reason I can't be on that site because I would fucking be accused of bullying her by the time I was done. That was another thing that I had to deal with on Twitter for a bit. Oh, Tim, you're a bully. You're always coming out with your receipts and clapping back at people. And I wasn't being a bully. If you come at me with something stupid and racist, I have every right to respond. If you drop receipts that are stupid and bigoted, I have every right to go, is this you? I didn't personally attack people. I always clap them back with common sense and logic, but I got called a bully. And after a while, it was like, why am I doing this? It wasn't a win. I didn't feel like I was winning anything. I just wanted that person to realize I don't have to justify anything to you. You're a bigot. You're going to waste my time. Here's the receipts. But when you're fighting something that is so socially conditioned, people treat you like you're the bad guy. And that's why I know that if I was on Twitter, I mean, I keep calling it Twitter because to me they're pretty much interchangeable. TikTok, I would probably be accused of being either a bully or a harasser because I would be stitching all the time against these lies and against these bigots. And while I've seen some amazing young people that have the time and energy, they even have to preface it because TikTok likes to ban black creators for such harassment. So why would I waste my time and energy on a platform that doesn't respect me? I already struggle with the current platforms doing that, with the fact that I will never be algorithm based for a lot of these people, that I'm not going to censor myself or sponsor myself down. You will never see me pushing a Patreon for my stuff because I plan to do these anyway. And it wasn't about fame, it's about keeping the truth out there, talking about frankly hard topics with everybody, and giving people that kind of open dialogue about this stuff. Because we see way too much of the other side. And we see social media constantly caving to the other side, where they can lament, oh, we're being shadow banned. They're shadow banning conservatives. No, people are just tired of arguing with you. You're not being shadow banned. People are literally blocking you. And now Twitter has opened the floodgates to that, saying, well, too many of them were getting banned. Their feelings were getting hurt. So we're going to take the block feature away. We're going to make it where you're a captive audience to their bigotry and lies. You can't fucking win against that nonsense. So instead of constantly giving these people my content to platform and make bank off of, and they already got years of my shit, so have at it, Muskie. Other than that, I refuse to give them new content. I refuse to continue to bring that site revenue off my black creativity. There are plenty of better things out there. They're spoutable. I should be on post a bit more, but it's a different format for me. So I just use it to advertise right now. And I apologize to those who follow me on post. It is what it is. I feel way more comfortable on Spoutable. I feel there's more of a community aspect for me on Spoutable. So I have been happy on there. It really feels the way I felt once it started to warm up to Twitter. Because I didn't like Twitter at first. Twitter was something I had to get for work. And I stuck it out. If you had asked me, even back then, when I had to get it for work, what the fuck a Twitter was, I wouldn't have known and didn't care. But we had to have a social media presence for the magazine. And I stuck it out and I built the community, and it was fun at first. And that stopped being fun. And right now, Spoutable is in that nice sweet spot. It's new. We only had it since February. And it continues to grow and innovate. And it's just a sense of community there that I think social media is missing for years now, that we finally got back, and I just want to protect it. And I love that we have alternatives, because these fucking billionaire assholes who run these social media sites normally, they want us to feel like, well, this is all you got. You want to make something, if you want to have a brand, you've got to go through us. You've got to deal with our renaming shit like Facebook to Meta, Twitter to X, and whatever bullshit Jack wants to throw out there. And we need to tell them no. We don't have to put up with their nonsense. We don't have to deal with their rebrand midlife crises. We don't have to deal with their wanting us to be a captive audience to their weird, bigoted right-wing rhetoric. And that was really hard for me to say in all one breath. So there you go. We know our worth and value. We know that if we stop posting on their sites, advertisers dry up, that bottom line of theirs dries up, and they hurt the only place they really feel any pain and that's in their pockets. So I'm asking you tonight, if you are still on X, and this is not to my friends who, I know your brands are tied into your socials. I'm not trying to hurt your bag, but you need to start migrating. 'Cause that site not just dying, it has been dead. I am watching y'all literally walk around on the corpse of a social media site. And it's kind of sad. I get email updates still, and I see a lot of my friends who post every day still. I know it's hard to kick that habit, but you're not doing yourself any favors staying on there, especially now that he has lifted the ability to ban people who harass you. I don't even want to look at the DMs that probably flood through now. Because I was getting death threats before the ban stuff got put in place on Twitter. And I don't think people understand that being able to block people stopped you from getting those direct DMs from them. And now it's open season again. Having racial slurs thrown at me and my kid, having a man literally take pictures of me and my kid, making threats. That was the reality for my Twitter experience for years, until the Twitter team decided, let's put in tools to have anti-harassment that must repealed. Why are you still giving this man yourself as content? I will never ever understand it, because you think there's no better alternatives. There are. And we are the ones that build these social media platforms. The moment more of you realize that and take the little bit of power that Musk, Zuckerberg, and other assholes like this think they have, the better. You can't have social media without the people, and we need to just deprive them of us, to show them that they can't push us around anymore, that they can't force us to sit through neo-Nazi rhetoric on social media, that they can't force us to deal with the misogyny on social media, the bigotry on social media from the conservative side. It is on us to not be a captive audience to their hate. And I know that it's hard to think like that, because some of us were on Twitter for over a decade. It's not easy to walk away from something that I was on for 10 years, but you know what? The moment that banning of being able to block people was lifted, I honestly, the moment he let 45 back on, I was already done. But I thought, man, I'll advertise for the book every once in a while. I'll advertise campaigns and stuff every once in a while. No, I'm done. After the repeal of banning was a thing, and oh, we already got trained. Either way, y'all, not to end on the rant, because I really wanted to kick hopelessness in its, I don't even want to say where I would kick it. I just want people to realize that hopelessness and apathy makes it harder to fight what we see, the irrelevancy and illogicalness of hate. The fact that there are people around us that condone this nonsense, but we don't have to. Giving into it isn't going to help solve this problem. And I know that it feels like an insurmountable problem, but maybe I'm just born of the genes that are used to persevering, and that knows we can be better people if we wanted to be. That's why I put that my punk powers are defiant decency, because it is. I feel like that is the only way to show this world that you will not break me. You might bring me down sometimes with your nonsense, but I will not be broken by bigotry, and I know I am not alone on this. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up, because it is after 8 o'clock. Go make some dinner. I really do. I want Dane to come to Spoutable too. And I've seen some of my other friends lurk. Y'all know who you are. I'm not going to call you out yet, because I know you are. It's like baby stepping into this, tiptoeing your water into something new, and you don't want to announce your presence yet, but you need to come on. Twitter is a dead site, and I am not saying that gleefully. I have my period of mourning it, but I'm over it. There are better things out there, and we need to stop giving Musk any chance at a redemption arc. He's already shown, he has decided that he is the main character for their disgusting rhetoric. We need to take our content and our talent elsewhere. But I am going to get ready to wrap this up. I really hope that you have a great weekend. Beans, respect, everybody who sat in tonight, thank you so much. We will hopefully be back next week. But like I said, with the move going on, it is going to be touch and go. And last Tuesday, well, this Tuesday, I had a bit of a mental health crisis. And I will be upfront each time that happens. Hopefully this week will be a bit better, but until I know, I will keep you updated on Spoutable when or if I have to cancel out. Till then, my plans is to definitely keep these Friday night Bonnet Chronicles going on. And once we move, I think I can get a better rhythm for stuff too, because we'll have a new office set up and everything as well. So I'm looking forward to it, but it is going to be chaotic, y'all. I am so excited to be a homeowner after all the trouble we've had the last few years, to see just the patience and steady plugging away pay off. That's why I believe in hope. And I hope that if anything is going wrong for you right now, if your life isn't where it needs to be, that you know that there are people out there rooting for you and that hope is around the corner. It might feel like nobody's there for you. And I hate that there are people out there that feel that way. But I'm rooting for you, and I hope that things get better. I'm going to wrap this up. I will probably be back on Sunday. I don't know yet. Sometimes the guys can't meet up. I'll let you guys know. If not, I will see you all next week. Have a great weekend. Thank you so much, Fendelicious. I hope you have a great weekend. Thank you for sitting in, and I will see you all next week.